What did the team expect for Chandrayaan 3 to do?
Nobody has ever gone close to South Pole, right? I mean, that's a fact actually. And also remember, South Pole is a dangerous area. When the asteroids go through, they actually hit the South Pole. So that was one of the missions. And then, of course, Chandrayaan 3 had several sensors by the way. Unlike Earth soil, the moon soil is expected to have some electrostatic charge actually. And there are 24 satellites out there. So at any point on the surface of Earth, at any point of time, you can actually see at least 4 satellites. What you see as Navik system has a strategic impact of guiding or helping our own strategic missiles. That was the whole idea.
Awesome. Okay, I think moving into the next phase, we would want us to talk something about the project A.D.M.I.R.E, sir. That is something which is coming up from ISRO side.
Okay, you want to talk fast forward to that? Okay, after Chandrayaan 2, Chandrayaan 3, we had actually a lot of work on Chandrayaan 3 as well. But then we're looking for what next basically. Okay, so whatever we thought about, being academics and all, we are open for everything. In other words, we don't mind working a little bit on spacecraft or a little bit on launch vehicle also. So in fact, most of my things, earlier work you'll see it is actually some connotation or some implication for launch vehicles. In fact, when I was in DRDO, I was actually working with A.D.M.I.R.E missiles, which is also a launch vehicle in some sense basically. So this was, we are always comfortable, that's not issue. But then we thought about, okay, all this fascinating story of that we are listening, of SpaceX and all that, right, that the launch vehicles are getting recovered and all that, what really happens there? So one of my very good students was there at that point, in fact a project staff, he did a very good literature survey. And then I went ahead and gave a 90-minute seminar in ISRO headquarters. Chairman ISRO was also there, and of course a lot of people listened to that. And then we got excited, oh, if somebody else can do, why can't we do? So then he himself told that, okay, you think about, we already started a program called A.D.M.I.R.E. Okay, so A.D.M.I.R.E stands for Advanced Mission Recovery. So now remember all this very nice feeling of going Chandrayaan 3 and all that, which are limited things, because now you talk about bigger and better payloads basically, right? When you talk about Bharatiya Antariksha, whatever, you talk about Indian space station basically, right? So there you cannot talk about 5-ton thing. 5-ton is very less actually. Okay? So here you really talk about cargo, a lot of people going there, staying for a while. You cannot have multiple missions to go there, dock, come back and all that. That becomes complicated. So if you really look at what US has done, or even they are doing now, they are called Falcon 9 rocket and very big massive rockets. That. So ISRO has also already felt that next generation launch vehicles should be much bigger capability. By the way, whether you know that or not, this so-called LMV3. LMV3 was, right now they call launch vehicle 3, so actually GSLV3.
Oh.
And GSLV3 actually was nothing but our master's project report. And so we started as a paper design, we call that a Surya. In fact, the project report is over here. Okay. But other than that, coming back to that, the 5-ton is not really that so sufficient. Now ISRO has to also talk about 20-ton vehicle. Now when you talk about 20-ton capability, 25-ton capability like that, the vehicles are very big compared to you talk about LMV3 is big, but those things are even bigger. Okay. So then you don't want to throw it to the sea. When such a huge vehicle you construct and with lot of expense and all that, the better you recover and reuse. Even though the material, at that point of time, if you think, okay, Chandrayaan 3, if you simply use it in launch vehicle, it is not going to be useful, not going to be helpful. It may actually recover the vehicle, probably. Because there is nothing doubtful actually, right? The logic is well designed and all that, you may actually miss them. But then that is not everything, because in guidance theory, what we call, you become very, very, very miser. Okay, in the sense, whatever goes up has a penalty. That means whatever you take it to the orbit or take off weight basically, right? Your weight has to be very much minimal. In other words, whatever mission you do it with minimum fuel. That's the condition basically. So if you see all space missions, we'll talk about minimum fuel, and minimum fuel, nothing else actually, that way. So you take a little bit longer time, fine, no problem. But do the mission with minimum fuel, and that feature is not there in this current guidance basically. So when you don't have that, then even if you recover, the requirement of fuel is little more. And remember, that is what Chandrayaan 3 had, because Chandrayaan 2 had a satellite. We didn't have a satellite. We did not take a satellite. That was a smart move, right? So we actually had a propulsion module, and propulsion module means what? It's a half satellite sort of thing. So you took only propulsion. That's all, right? So that way you saved some of the weight, and that weight was utilized for loading more propulsion. Okay, so that because you had more propulsion, you can actually do much better thing basically that way. So guidance law was order higher and all that, right? Order of the guidance was higher. But those things are not happening here. The reason being, the more and more fuel you use for recovery, the satellite payload you are compromising basically. Okay, so you have to really do recovery with very minimal fuel. so that the fuel itself doesn't become part of the payload.
Yes.
So, and then when you talk about minimum fuel based guidance, and we don't compromise anything, you have to have precision landing. Means the rocket is that much size, you cannot throw it in the sea. There will be either a landmass or small landmass like helipad or something, or you have artificial helipad in a ship or something. You take a ship, on the ship deck there is artificial helipad actually. Through that, so that means high precision landing has to be there, exactly that same place. Okay, exactly vertical, velocity has to be 0. All conditions are like that, same thing. But you have to now talk about kind of doing the job in a minimum fuel sense, and that is what SpaceX is already doing. The question here is, okay, if you want to do minimum fuel, the very big penalty comes to our people like us actually. So, the very good math luxury that you had, what we call minimum energy or minimum control energy to be very precise, is a little bit luxury problem. In other words, the difficulties are not really very much. The moment you talk about minimum fuel, now you know this is something called quadratic function, u square. U is a control variable, u square is minimal. Suddenly you have to talk about absolute value of u is minimal. And absolute value is a linear function, you know that. It's like it's greater than this side, it is u, and then less than this side minus u. Both are straight lines only, right? So, our optimal control theory will tell that, okay, when you talk about all this formulation and then sit down with the mathematics, then you have to deal with one order derivative. So, when you have a quadratic function, you take a derivative of a linear function, right? But when you have a linear function, you take derivative, it's nothing. It's just a constant.
It's a constant.
So, that actually takes us to something called singular optimal control. It's a huge problem, I mean, it's a hugely difficult problem. And that problem to be solved properly, you know something called bang control. In other words, all the time you have to do maximum this side or maximum this side or bang off bang. Sometimes zero control or maximum or minimum. You don't have only 3 choices basically. So, with that you have to, now the timing has to be proper, like when you do maximum, when you do minimum, all that what you do actually. But now you talk about mathematical things aside, what is happening in physics. So, when you are coming down, maximize the aerodynamic drag. Drag is given by nature basically, right. So, when you go up, you want to minimize the drag, maximize the thrust and lift and all that, right. So, you go that side. But so, minimize the drag means with minimum fuel you can go up. But when you come down, you have to maximize the drag so that at the end your fuel requirement is lesser basically. Right. So, drag is the retarding force. So, that essentially the vehicle turning and dancing, all that you have to do. So, the vehicle attitude has to be perpendicular to the vehicle velocity. Suppose the vehicle is going like that, then this is like that. Remember, if it falls like that, it will crash. So, towards the end you have to make it vertical. Okay. So, that all these things has to be done properly basically. That is what we, all this, okay, remember another thing that comes to my mind, okay, all these aerospace flight computers are very reliable so called legacy computers. Okay. So, if you took any flight computer, onboard computer, they are at least 20 years old, I can bet you. 20 years old technology, that onboard computers are very minimal computational power. So, you don't want to load it like that basically. So, essentially the guidance law that we are talking about has to be in something called closed form. That means in a formula. You give me a formula, I will code it and got done. That's it. But here you can't do that. In this kind of singular optimal control problem, we have to talk about repeatedly doing iterations also on board. Okay. That means the onboard computer has to be next generation basically. So, computer itself has to be much more powerful. So, that is where you can do all this computation on board basically. So, that is called computational guidance. It is picked up quite a bit in last about, I'll say 8 to 10 years. Globally, it has picked up quite a bit. And then I told you, the literature shows that they have actually used it. The SpaceX missions are actually using that kind of philosophy to get it there. And then we thought, okay, why can't we do that also actually? So, with that, I have actually proposed a proposal to ISRO. That proposal is under consideration.
Again, we should get started with the startup bit right now. It's very exciting, sir. Every single phase that you've been saying, okay, this is how we started, this is how we did, and this is the next step, the startup. It's called Vishwas Technologies. And we went through the website and there are like 4 deep tech startups at the moment. Would you like to provide more insights about
4 different verticals we call. Okay, so, essentially, so look, the name Vishwas also has a very different connotation. In other words, getting a name for a startup company is not really very easy, I will say that. The process of startup, I think there are a lot of feedback I can give you to Government of India, how to make it streamlined and all that. Because I am not really happy. I mean, I am telling on camera basically. The whole idea is I think we could have been much more simplified. But the fact is, okay, even if there are so many exclusion criterions basically, right. So, that you cannot take this name because somebody else has taken, okay, that makes fair sense. You cannot take this name because Government of India has reserved it for future uses. You cannot take this name because phonically it sounds closer, even though spelling wise is difficult, phonically it sounds closer. I mean, all these things are too restrictive basically. So, okay, I don't regret on that. We started with some other name, whatever we thought about, but that was rejected twice. And we were searching for about a little bit of name help and all. Somehow this name kind of attracted us. So, Vishwa is actually Lord Vishnu's name. And we thought, okay, because we are talking about variety of things doing together, so it is omnipresent in some sense basically, right? So we thought, okay, why not SIS transfer systems basically. So we thought Viswasis, and that is how we proposed, and it was finally accepted by MCA. So the name has come like that basically that way. But then we don't regret it. Actually, we think it's a fantastic name in some sense basically. A lot of business connotation basically that way, and some meaning to some attachment to that basically. But having said that, we have got 4 verticals, and 3 verticals are more or less aerospace. The 4th one is my 4th person, which is biomedical. That we'll talk to a little bit later. So the first one we talked about air traffic control, the air traffic management. Remember, there are so much of crowding happening in the entire Indian airspace. So not only we need modern infrastructures, modern airport, more runways and all sort of things, but also we need to manage the flow. We need a lot of good software solutions. Remember, generating tons of data is no meaning unless you use that. So the Airport Authority, Airport Authority of India, which is kind of modernizing all the infrastructure and everything, they are going in a very big way, which is needed anyway. But they are generating a lot of data. Now you utilize that data to have a lot of solutions in place basically. So we have done some work on that for last 5-6 years. So time has come to do to the next level basically. So that is one stream that we have given a proposal to Airport Authority also already basically to. And hopefully, if they again, that is also again under consideration. If they take it through, then we'll do that work very passionately rather basically. But second vertical, we thought, okay, very natural thing what we demonstrated in Chandrayaan-3 mission through UAV landing and all that. Why don't you take a little more and then talk about GNC solution for UAVs essentially, both fixed wing as well as quadcopter sort of thing. Okay. Then the question is, okay, why don't you build UAVs yourself? So I thought we can do it. It's not that way. Because there are many things available. In fact, some of the UAVs that we do experiments are actually built here only. That's not that way. But then if you really go to commercial world of UAVs, then you talk about the certification. You have to go have a very big service system. You have to have that itself is an area that you cannot concentrate on any other thing, basically, right? So we figured it out as a business case sort of thing. That okay, why don't we confine to our own strength? In other words, we'll talk about only guidance, navigation, control. And then we'll tie up with several startups and other things. Whatever UAVs are there are a lot many companies basically, right? So whoever needs our high precision control guidance, all that, then probably we'll tie up with them with all sort of MOA, NDA or whatever it is, and then we become their backend suppliers for the brain part of it. Okay? So that is what that's the business plan we talk about. Some companies have shown interest already basically, but we have not have any MOU signed yet. So work is still going on for saying on a very different thing basically. Then we thought third vertical is our space domain. So whatever we have done for space, why do you leave it out? Basically, there are so many space startups again. So the same ecosystem that we thought about for UAVs, we can also think of a similar model for our space wing. Now remember, most of my activities with ISRO probably will continue in the IIC mode and things like that. But then there are several startups already there. So that startup to startup tie-up we can always do basically. So that was the main motivation of getting a space wing there. So we'll talk about almost similar things. We will not talk about launch vehicle building or satellite building, nothing. We will become the brain of each other, whoever comes along basically. In fact, some space startups have already shown interest also basically. So that way. Then we thought, okay, there was a very interesting story. So there was another story of what we call biomedical application of control theory, which is a high precision insulin delivery for diabetes control. Basically, we have also done some work based on that, and we are looking for having a separate company, by the way. So it has not. We are looking for that. We have explored the possibility of some venture capitalist VC funding or something, because that a company of that nature, even to begin with, we need actually about 5-6 crores. So that money was not coming. We tried our best. It was not coming. In the sense, a lot of people who actually had money told, okay, we cannot wait longer. The biomedical problems also has a little waiting period longer and all that. But fortunately, what happened? We actually started getting grants actually. So that means government grants and private foundation grants and all that are there. So the grant part of it is there. That means you can actually generate IPs and all that. All our clinical trials, research and all that can happen through IAC. Then we will get that exclusive license to some company somewhere, okay, whatever. And then we will start the commercial wing for that. Now, if it go to some company, why not our own company? So we kind of had a fourth wing for that, which will also talk about the commercial or people interaction part of it basically. So that is what we call as artificial pancreas wing or diabetes care wing actually. If given time, I don't know, maybe 5 years down the line or something, when that wing grows further and all that, or some venture capitalist own interest, we are open for making a separate company out of it basically. But right now, all 4 verticals are there.
But given the concept of grants that you spoke about, sir, how supportive is the government of India in terms of innovative sciences or deep tech startups of this nature?
Well, deep tech startups, I don't have too much of experience to kind of talk about. The way of establishing a startup itself, I was not happy. Even now, I am not happy, basically, in the sense, it's very simplified. A lot of things could have been simplified. I mean, maybe the government of India should think about it, basically. I don't know. So, for example, like people like us, we are never trained in that area. I mean, 20 years of my life has gone into deep tech only, but not deep tech startup. So, there is something called incubation centers and all, but incubation centers, in my opinion, are the more or less, including our IIC, no derogation to anybody. They have also got their limitations, actually, hands tight and all that. So, they are more or less becoming information centers. They are not incubation centers. I will say that way. I mean, I will be a little bold to say that, basically. So, incubation center is supposed to go there with an idea. Once it is approved, most of the technical paperwork are done by them. But it's not. Each and every paperwork are supposed to be done by the startup themselves, basically. In association with some chartered accountant or some company secretary, they will simply give a list of people. I mean, you talk to somebody and talk to some people who have taken their service, and whatever service you incorporate yourself. After everything is done, get a commencement of business certificate, and then come to us for incubation. I mean, this is somehow I've never felt comfortable to. So, I think something more can be done in that point of view. Also, remember, there are so many compliance requirements in the MCA part of it itself, right? So, you comply with that, you keep on filing. Even our series of filing is not even over yet. Okay, so there are so many things which can be done systematically. I think now people talk about DigiLocker, for example, right? So, you can give a list of 20 documents, you put it to the DigiLocker, and then all these compliance people can take it from there and then get the compliance certificate done to us, basically, that way. Right. So, what's the problem in that? I mean, DigiLocker is something that will give permission to, basically, right? So, they can also have a question dropouts and something like that. Okay, the entire process could have been much better simplified, actually. And then there are issues of there are many issues there. Let's leave it there. So, maybe that's a separate recording. Let's not talk about that. I mean, there is something called official address requirement and all that. Okay? So, many times we don't have office setup. I mean, in incubation center, we cannot give a kind of your this official address of the company, even though we are incubated in IIC. It is just a working address.
Oh.
Your registered address happens to be somewhere else, basically. Now you figure it out. What is the ecosystem? You have to either buy a flat or buy an apartment. Or many of the flats don't give you permission. They are residential flats. Okay, so there are many issues like that, which actually has. I mean, it feels nice. Okay, I don't have too much of experience. What happened 20 years back. So, compared to 20 years back, maybe we are so much improved now. But then still, I think compared to US system, which I have got a mentor from US, by the way, so through his inspiration only I have started all that. Told all that it took for me is just about a bunch of application and small documents, and 1 week later all the things are there in my home, including PAN card and everything, basically, right? So, here it's a struggle. Even after we started almost like when, maybe September. So, you see, after 6 months we are still not done with that process.
So, it's still in progress.
There's still a lot of compliance requirement, one after the other. We don't even know what is there. It starts with digital signature certificate, and then you talk about many documents after that. Then after that, some SIN, TIN, all that is there. Then after that, that goes to bank. Bank will tell you, okay, why don't you talk about a current account? Current account is almost like 20 pages of documentation again. Okay, so all these things, I don't know. I mean, it is a little troubling experience, actually. I mean, I'm not happy.
Okay. I understand, sir. But I will definitely drop a link of Vishwas's technologies in the description, right? And I would also like to understand if you're looking for like interns or anybody who can come in and help with the project.
Well, interns is a choice, but remember, interns are not matured people. Okay, also they are energetic people, they are enthusiastic people, but they are not. See, interns you get second year of BTech. The maturity level of that we expect in our company product. We are not talking about brains of launch vehicle, brains of satellite, brains of UAVs like that, actually, right? So, maturity level may not be high, but intern has been a mechanism for many of these IT industry and other things to figure it out who is suitable for you. It is just a hunting ground, basically.
Correct.
Right? That way.
Absolutely.
It's not a working ground per se. So, our funding level is not that much that we can actually play with as a hunting ground yet. So, when it grows little more, maybe we will think about it, but right now, no, basically. So, all my startup, I think 5 of my working students, I mean 4 of my PhD students and one almost like a PhD student who has been working here for last 4 years, they have all shown interest to join my company after they submit their thesis and all. So, they are going to be the backbone of the company for each of the vertical and all that kind of thing. Then we will think about, okay, this project funding will, when it comes, we will hire the right people, basically. So, this funding will have enough support system. Then we are looking for investment and all that, that is also coming up. So, when you have that system, remember it's a very deep tech startup. We cannot talk about non-deep tech people to talk about deep tech thing. That doesn't happen that way, basically. And this deep tech is not really the way people understand deep tech in fintech probably, for example. That's a different deep tech. So here we are talking about a lot of mathematical skills, lot of onboard computation skills, lot of talk of many of our diabetes application. We actually develop phone apps. Okay, so which will actually go to some patients, parents, doctor, whatever, the other side, IoT solutions basically. So I don't think this kind of work can be done by interns, but interns can be some sort of a skill set evaluation platform basically. Right now we don't think about it, but maybe later.
Got it. Okay. I think I've taken quite a bit of your time. I will go ahead with the last question that I have for the day. That's if in case any 18-year-old or a 19-year-old were considering to move into space exploration right now, what would your advice be to them? Where should they
Well,
start?
my
Like,
request
what
will
do
be just take a mat and then go to a clean sky and lie down there for an hour and look at the sky. I'm serious about it. Okay. And if you are a little bit of scientific mind, you will see so much of fascination there actually. Okay, that your mind will be deep inside that basically. And then if you look at all the space scientists enthusiastic, all started from there. In fact, I don't know why we fight so much or quarrel so much here and things like that. This beautiful Earth, what you call this entire globe and entire universe, if you see, is so vast, right? Essentially, we are somewhere some tiny solar system, and there is a planet, and that planet is livable, right? So far, all these efforts of entire space agency of the world, including JAXA, NASA, ESA, ISRO, whatever. Effort is great, but nobody has ever found life elsewhere. Life system is only here so far, proven life system basically, right? And that too, we have got a lot of wars and then kill each other and all that. That somehow kind of hurts me in some sense basically. So it should not happen that way. And science should be actually utilized for humanity progress, not for killing each other something. Now war should be the last option in some sense basically. But having said that, okay, that is the motivation that you will get. How so many giant systems? And let's think about a simple question basically, right? Now, well, Earth, there's Earth gravity. Earth gravity we don't probably realize because we walk, run and all that. But just talk about 3-4 building and jump, we'll die basically. Right? 3, 4, 4th, third floor, 4th floor, you jump, you'll die. Okay, so that much powerful it is. Now think about jumping from airplane, what will happen actually that way. So it is gravity of Earth itself is so powerful. Okay? Now you can feel it, what I am telling you. So I am giving the example because you'll feel it basically, right? That way. Now we talk about Earth itself is moving around Sun's gravity. Now you think about Lord Sun's gravity is how much actually. You think about that. Okay, and then you think about Earth life is how many? I mean, some million years, billion years, whatever that is. And every year we get 365 days. Every year we get summer season, winter season. Every day is 24 hours. Sun comes, goes, everything. So systematic, actually, right? Now each of the planet, each of the solar planet, satellite, everything systematic there out there. So obviously there is so much fascination going on there. Of course, there is a very spiritual angle you can attach to that as well. You can tell who is doing all that. Because there are also, we call it perturbation studies and all that. All these are orbits, right? Earth is also under orbit basically, right? So there are hundreds of, at least 3-4 major perturbation effects I can think about. The first thing is third body effect we call. So essentially, so the sun is there, Earth is predominantly under sun, but Jupiter is there behind you, that is also pulling you basically. Okay? So when the Jupiter is far away, it doesn't that much, but when it is close by, there is some effect. When there is a comet going closer by, it's not colliding with us, but comet is going around basically. So that will also be gravitational effect. So these effects will perturb the Earth orbit. Now who is putting it back? Somebody is putting it back right that way, right? So you can think about, okay, there is a massive control authority somewhere there, somewhere. So that is what I connect to as something called God or something. Not
massive
in temple,
control authority.
not in temples and that way, right? So what you call that is. So that is somebody controlling that kind of a mechanism, that kind of a powerful thing. He or she himself has to be so powerful. Then only you can do that actually that way. So there is some invisible control authority somewhere there that way, right? Then you want to go closer to that. So obviously that itself becomes an inspiration basically, right? Then you think about what are the utilities of space science basically, right? If we talk about, now you talk about so much of this, TV, all started with TV, right? TV, remote sensing, cellular phone, GPS, everything. It is all through space. So space is not just for fascination, but day-to-day life you got so much of use basically, right? That way. So then you now talk about getting out of cell towers and getting through the Starlink basically, right? And now people talk about that actually. So thousands of satellites basically. Then comes the debris problem, then comes something else, right? That way. So naturally you get attracted to. And also remember which you cannot see and cannot see in naked eye basically, right? What you cannot see, you are more attracted to that in general. If you happen to see somebody, then he or she is close friend, but you don't see somebody there, then that person becomes a little more attractive. So space is something that is not really visible day and night, right? You have to go through some instrumentation system to see it visible. And also it's a very high-tech thing. This is very punishing environment and all that, right? If you do mistakes, there is not, most likely that you will get a punishment. Okay, so that all these things also lead to something called country's pride or people's life. Right. So when you talk about space technology, it's more or less it is very hugely impactful. So for example, how many people get saved in the natural calamity disaster prediction basically? You predict a natural calamity and then talk about mitigation strategy after that. Even 1 week before you displace people and all that. So nobody dies nowadays, right? Very minimal casualty nowadays. Okay, so these are all because of space. So it's something direct, something indirect basically, right? So you start from a spiritual angle or a massive thing or whatever they talk about that entire thing, and then you talk about realities as well. So both sides, both point of view, it is quite exciting. So that itself may be that will get you a little more like that. Actually.
I totally love the last part of how we connected spirituality with science. So this was really great. It was so good talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for taking our time, sir.